Hey, Kimmy. Looks like you're the only one in right now that I can tell. Yep. Oh, Tara's coming. Hey, Tara. You have your microphone turned off. Yeah. There you go. Good morning.
Are we supposed to have everything on?
Yeah. For now, I mean, I can unmute everybody. I can turn people on and off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
but
haven't done this yet.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's kind of cool because you can see each other, and it's kind of like class. Um, there you are. Oh my gosh, can you see yourself?
I can see myself in like the little corner, but
Yeah. So we just want that's all we want right now. Like, and there should be more people coming and sooner or later, and then some people like Kimmy didn't turn on her video and her phone. Some people are there. Kimmy, your phone's on anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So only two of you right now. What happens is people, because they don't have to go anywhere, they don't necessarily. Maybe they're making coffee. Maybe they're getting. I know some people actually um, turn their computer on from the bed and just lay there. I don't know. It's a comfy thing, so that's fine. Whatever. Yeah. So I'm leaving your microphones on because if you have questions, you can just ask questions. Also, any kind of sound that you make in there will bring your picture to the forefront. You'll take the screen up, believe it or not.
right.
Yeah, if you had a dog barking in your house, then yeah. So should that happen, I'll turn people off.
Oh, okay.
Depends on what's going on in their situation. Yeah. So in a couple of minutes, I'm gonna be starting talking about the visual analysis. People will be coming in probably. So what we're going to be doing today is kind of what we did the other day. Were you on the other day?
I wasn't, no.
Okay. So we're going to cover that, and I'm going to record all of that. So then you can well, actually it's being recorded right now, so you can see it. You can actually look at it. Um, I've made a YouTube channel, so it turns out that Zoom will not hold your files. They only let you have a couple files. So I actually made a YouTube channel. Imagine me making a YouTube channel, but I did it. Um, and so when this is finished, I'm gonna upload it to the YouTube channel. It takes a couple of hours because the internet's really slow right now. Um, so the recording will be accessible to everybody, which is good. Um, Randall, people can see you.
I don't think I can click on anyone else.
Yeah, he just has his microphone off. He's figuring it out. See, I mean, I think I'm bad. Everybody's figuring it out. Oh, there you go. He's all set. All right. So yeah, so we'll start in a minute talking about the visual analysis. Yeah. And then if you just joined, it is being recorded, so I'm going to upload this to my YouTube channel, and in a couple of hours it'll be available to watch. What you'll end up doing is speeding through to get to the part that you want. So we're maybe going to wait a couple more minutes, then we're going to start. So you would speed through this part because we're just letting people, people are just coming on. And then if you have questions you want to ask right now, that would be good about your own papers, because we could use this time for that. Anybody question on your paper?
I turned mine in late. I think you just got it Sunday morning, so you probably haven't even taken a look at it.
Sunday morning. Yeah, I would have. Which one? Which paper?
The design analysis, the final.
Oh, the final. Yeah. Well, I'll get those done today. So I'm waiting for people. But also I'm having to do all this technical stuff that I've not done before. So it's, for me, very tricky. Setting up the YouTube channel took a whole day. It's just not anything I know. Now
Well,
I know.
you're doing real well, honestly. So
I'm doing okay. I'm going to learn though, because, you know, we have to. All right. So anybody questions? Tara doesn't have questions about other papers. So let's see.
Well, I knew it said it didn't have a due date on our last paper for our revision on it, but I didn't know which grade I got on it, like a pass or a redo.
Okay. So are you talking about the Trump paper?
Yeah, because I got your like revisions for it, but I didn't know exactly what it.
When it was due, but so Elena, you've got a revision?
Yeah.
You got a paper back? I didn't mark it. I should have. Okay, so whatever's on the paper, we'll talk about the dehumanization paper after we do the visual analysis, because some people have don't need to do anything with that, so they're not going to listen to that part. So yeah. So let's see who else is there. Randall, you have some revisions on the dehumanization paper too, right?
I don't think so. I think you gave me a high pass.
Well, that was
Am I
on
wrong?
the, I don't know, that was on the 3 paragraph thing. I have marked in there that you got to revise.
Okay, let me go find it.
Well, eventually find it, yeah. So it would have come back to you in probably a Canvas email.
Okay, I'll take it.
So anyway, if you have questions about that, let me know. And let me see, Kimmy, you have a you have a revised, 2 revised to do. On the 3 paragraph things on Neighborhood Watch, you still have to get the personal response, which is the easy part, kind of done, I think. And then you have to revise the Trump piece. So yeah, I didn't put a due date on those because you know, I wanted you to get the Trump paper done, and now we're working on the visual analysis. So you guys manage that the way you want to. I'll put a due date on that soon though, because after the visual analysis, we're going to be moving into the final paper, which is an argument paper. So I don't want you guys to have all these papers that you want to turn in at the last minute. You want to get that done ahead of time. So maybe by next week we want to have the revised and the dehumanization one done. That'll leave us with about 5 weeks, and we have to work on. So the argument paper requires research, so we have to do a little work with the library. I'm probably going to have to do that myself. Maybe they can do it. We'll see. If so, it's going to be an online thing where actually, I don't know, where I think you'll be probably logging into this one, and then, or we'll all log into the library, whatever their meeting is. They'll send everybody a link, and we'll just log into the library thing. So we'll see how that goes, but one way or another, we're going to work with the library part. Yeah.
But I think I might have submitted. I submitted my final draft of the visual analysis. Did I put that in the wrong place? Did I submit that in the wrong place?
In the wrong place? So
Yeah,
here's what
remember the first time I did it, you told me I had put it in the wrong place. I did the introduction paragraph and the actual design analysis paragraph. I submitted that where the final was supposed to go, and I think I just put the final in the wrong place.
All right. Well, normally what you would do is you submit it to where it's supposed to go, and then whatever is supposed to go in that particular assignment, you just put resubmit and enter into it what's supposed to go there.
That's what I did. I was just looking at the if you go under grades, like from my side of Canvas, if you go under grades, I've got the online visual like design analysis and introduction paragraph, and then it shows the visual analysis completed draft, and that's by April 8th. And I probably put up my final where the original design analysis and intro paragraph was supposed to go.
Well, I mean, we're all learning this, right? Nobody
Yeah,
knows.
sorry.
Nobody knows. So don't worry about it. I mean, whatever you've got in there, I'll I'll let
Good
you
luck.
know what you.
Okay, and then my last question before we get off the topic, I'm in where it says grade. Where would I see if I have a revision for the dehumanization paper? Because I see
So,
on-campus revisions for rhetorical analysis of the new
so listen,
core.
the dehumanization paper was before we got online. So you guys mostly gave me the hard copies.
Right.
And what I did was I marked those up and I sent you back an email
Okay.
with an attachment, a PDF of that marked up paper.
Okay. So I'll go back through my emails and find that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, find that, and then you'll see what you need to do. Okay. So Sam, you're in good shape. I've got all your stuff in, so you're just here to listen to the visual analysis, I think. Who else is on? Let's see. Yep, I think we talked about everybody so far. All right.
Oh, I found it.
All right. So people will be coming in. We're going to start with the visual analysis now. And again, this is going to be recorded, so if you want to watch it later on the YouTube channel, the Zoom ability is limited. So if I tried to place all the recorded lectures or classes on there, they would tell me I don't have the storage. So I created a YouTube channel and it will be posted there later. But anyway, you would probably want to kind of scroll through this really fast and then get to this next part. All right. So every once in a while, I'm going to have to come back to this screen because as people come on, I need to add them. This is what's happening. But I'll be coming back. Okay. So we're going to move to this other screen for a minute. Not that one. They're trying to sell us something. This one. This one. Okay. So this is a rhetorical analysis outline that you guys have. And I just want to go through it, and then we'll look at all the parts, everything that's being asked there, and we'll move to those handouts. So right now we're working with handouts. The next time I teach the course, we probably won't. I mean, with other people, we'll do a different mechanism. So in the introduction, everybody should have a hook. Something interesting that sort of is a nice opening and relates to the theme. Not that this is about Newkirk at all, but Newkirk starts with a very interesting quote about animals and immigrants being animals. That's a pretty cool hook because that gets you to be, oh, so what's this about? Some kind of hook, something like that, that relates to your theme. So if you were looking at the boy crying with a hand around his throat, your theme might be verbal abuse. And so something that might relate to verbal abuse that would cause people to begin to think and wonder, okay, what's this about? And then the next part should be sort of a very quick overview, brief description, one or two sentences of the image. What does it look like? Not too much, because you're going to do that later in the design analysis. You want the name of the visual, if there is one, creator or designer, the year that was made, if you can find that, and then background of the author or the publisher. If it's a PSA, the publisher is important. It's usually a not-for-profit. They usually have a mission statement. There's something that they always do. We would want to know that because that would relate to the particular image you're looking at if it were a PSA. So when we know what their mission statement is and what they're trying to do, that would relate to the purpose of the image itself. So all this kind of follows logically. And then you want to explain the genres. So if it's a PSA public service announcement, what is that? Social commentary, political commentary, what are they? So you have a handout that looks just like this. that explains all these things, and it talks about a PSA being short. The goal is to change attitudes or behavior, uses emotion, and sometimes there's a tag at the bottom where they want you to contact them or call a phone number for help or something like that. And sometimes they have sort of um, what a short kind of a theme, like the one with the girl that's anorexia. It says, help them save them from themselves. And that's kind of a cool tag or theme. Um, PSAs are to change attitudes and behaviors or increase awareness. Um, and so they do use attention getting techniques, which is what you'd be talking about in your design analysis. Like, why are we looking at this? Why is this so interesting? To explain what that is about, if it were social commentary, this is usually trying to get us to look at ourselves, you know, to show us sort of in a mirror how we are or how something is in society, and it usually relates to an issue. Um, often trying to appeal to people's sense of justice or um, something that they feel they should correct. And there's other forms also. We'll keep on with that one. Back to this. So we'd be talking about the genres, explaining them, and then we want to talk about the target audience, specifically the target audience. Who is this aimed at? So if it were a little child with a hand around his throat, who is that aimed at? It's not really a general audience. It could be parents, probably someone that interacts with younger individuals, children, whether it be a sibling, teacher, um, someone in their class that's larger, any of those things. And then the message would be, for that particular piece, something about verbal abuse. Um, and once you feel that you've done a pretty good job on that, you want your final sentence in there. Thesis, is it successful? How do you see it as being successful or not successful? It didn't work so well. Okay. And from there, you're moving on into the design analysis paragraph, which is the tricky one, I would say for many people. Oops. There. So you guys have this handout. It's really just the 2 pages of chapter 6 that you want to look at. And so theoretically, we're looking at something that looks like this. We have somebody that made this thing, the writer, the designer, who created a visual. Sometimes they add text to that, and then that creates a larger meaning or a more specific meaning. We want to know, okay, they made this thing. What was the context of that? And there's two. There's an immediate context, which is where it might have been published, or say hung, like say there's a poster in a school, like our school. How does that relate to the message? And then in a more general way, how does that relate to our culture? What is it saying about our culture? So that's context. So in the long run, the whole paper is going to estimate the rhetorical effect. You want to know what was the impact on the target audience. Techniques for analyzing visuals. So this is a list of things, and this first one talks about the composition, in other words, the layout. How are things arranged in the piece? What's where? Are things balanced, or is there a focal point? Is there a larger image? Is foreground important, or background important, or unimportant? Does color play a role here? So color usually communicates emotion or value sometimes. If we were looking at this cycle of violence, which is the men and the boys around the kitchen table, the dark one, the color is sepia, and it's very dark. And you could almost imagine that it has something to do with the man's emotional feeling or his state of emotion, and it seems to be very dark and in some ways hidden when it comes out. Key figures, who those might be. If something is symbolic, I think again in that one with the cycle of violence, a kitchen table is very important because in any family, it's where people gather. It's where you eat your meals. It's where intimate conversation happens. It's where we actually become family. So the fact that this is going on around the kitchen table is a break in intimacy. It's a problem in the family. It's an issue. Cultural references for that particular one, it is a Mexican family, but um, that's the immediate cultural context. The more general cultural context, because we're looking at it, would be a reference to all families. And um, often males, especially adult males, parents, fathers, have trouble controlling emotions, or they feel that they're justified, or the culture says it's okay for them to scream and yell at people and be angry. But what's really causing that, the trauma or the perceived hurt or the hurt, is hidden in some way. Um, so that's a problem. That's maybe something we can look at. I think it's also trying to tell us as an audience that we should look at ourselves. Are we doing things like this? And re-examine and maybe try to change. And then that would be maybe the message. Um, and the purpose is to communicate all of those things, in that case, to a particular audience. So that you would want to bring all that stuff out. Okay, other things to be thinking about is if you have text in addition to the piece. What is the size of the text? Where is it placed on the on the image? Is the font large? Is the font small? If we were looking at the Martin Luther King one, it's sort of unusual because it's a reverse font. In other words, it's not black on white; it's white on black. Sort of stands out that way. Might be important. The context. So we talked about that already. Genre. We've talked about that. PSA. Social commentary, political commentary, satire. You want to be talking about that. Rhetorical appeals would be in your fourth paragraph. And this is kind of where you're talking about how does this thing actually work in terms of the target audience. So you want to discuss that. And then composition. So who or what's pictured in there? Who are the key figures? What's the relationship between, say, a main figure and the background? Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. What's excluded from this piece is sometimes important. Again, if we look at the boy with the hand around his neck, he's looking at something. He's looking at a figure that's excluded, which is perhaps the person looking at the image, if they feel it relates to them. It's directed at the person that's caused that's been screaming or yelling, that's caused this issue with the boy. And it wants them to rethink what they're doing, their behaviors. Color is important. Contrast of light and shade, or any repeated figures. So in the cycle of violence around the kitchen table, the color we talked about, the light and shade, or the light and dark. We want to know, where is the light coming from in that piece, and what is it actually on, because it's not on everything. And why is it that way? In that case, what do the repeated figures mean? Because they're the man from a child growing into a man. And then how do these things come together to form the purpose? So these are just notes that you're making to yourself. We'll go back to the outline again and see where they might go. And then when you're actually beginning your design analysis, we want to know, what does the eye see? What is the first point or image that your eye is drawn to, your attention? We want to know that. What's the focal point? And how does this contribute to the purpose of the message? Narrative. So is there a story to this? Is there a narrative to this? What was going on? And that might suggest something about the purpose and the meaning of the piece. Are there any symbols in there? For me, the kitchen table in that image is important. If we're looking at the boy with the hand around the neck, then we know that's a visual metaphor. It's not a real hand, it's a metaphor. A metaphor suggests something. It's not the real thing, it's a suggestion of something. So it's a visual metaphor. Those words make up a hand. It becomes a visual metaphor. And the hand, because of the words, is choking him. So it sort of relates to physical abuse. The verbal abuse is, in a way, similar to physical abuse with impact. Um, who has the power in the visual? Who does not? Again, that's an important thing. If there's anything that refers to sexist, racist, or body image stereotypes, we can discuss that. Um, so these are all things that you can use from that to sort of put it together. So that's the design analysis, and these are just quick notes. The cultural context, you would maybe want to do research on. If we were looking at the boy with the verbal abuse, we would want to look up verbal abuse. And we want to know, so how significant is it? Um, how, uh, how usual is it or typical is it in our culture? What is it trying to get about our culture? What do we need to correct in our culture? So that's your third paragraph. Your fourth paragraph is that thing where you're looking at the impact on the target audience. And so you're talking about the claims and the appeals. What sort of evidence is there? This may be a short paragraph. If you feel it's too short, you can kind of maybe include it in the design analysis. So it's going to be kind of up to you with that one. The conclusion, go back to this idea of what was it really all about? What was the purpose or the message of it? Is it successful? And sort of kind of review it a little bit, but also bring in some insight on how, when you put these things together, what do we feel? What do we see? Think about the cultural impact research that you use and how that connects to it and its purpose. What its argument might be. And finally, it's successful or not. So those are all the things you're doing with that. The last piece in here, I think I can get to it. Yeah. So we have an example. Now, these are all in your files. So this is an example. I think I only gave you one, maybe two, but there's one here. This was from a long time ago. It was one of the very first ones. And I gave it to you because he has most of what he needs here. He doesn't have a hook. But this is really before this paper was developed very much. But he's pretty good. He's got some background. He says where it's from, who did it. He doesn't really have the name of the piece, so maybe there wasn't a name. Actually, there was a name. I think it was at the bottom, but in any case, he did pretty good. He talked about the public service announcement. He talks about that. And then whether it was effective, he does that. Now, his second paragraph is his research paragraph. If you guys want to move it around like that, you could. But don't wait very long for the design analysis because that's what people need to know what it looks like. Presenting this information is important, could add weight to it, but on the other hand, nobody knows what you're really talking about until they see the image. So maybe more with that. And then anytime you're using research, we want the source. So in parentheses, we would like you to put the name of the website, if it's that, name of the article in quotes, if you've got that. One of those two. Here's his design analysis, which is sort of out of order of that outline. He's got the title here, so he does have a title. And he sort of has a descriptive way. He begins with, she's ducking down with her hand in her mouth, and the text. So he's trying to create things that you would look at. I think he's maybe a little out of order because he jumps from the person down to the hotline. And then he's trying to look at her face, and so he's jumping around. It's better to just kind of start with what the eye sees, focus on that, move in a logical way around it from there to what's next, so that everything is sort of connected, so that when the reader reads it, they sort of get it. In his case, he didn't talk about appeals at all. So, but he did a good job with the analysis. He talks about light and dark. He does talk about the symbol, her hand pointing, it looks like a gun. He talks about stereotypes, and he could have talked about sexism because in our culture, in particular, women are held to a fairly high physical standard compared to men, this ideal body thing. And then his final, he's analyzing it. He actually has sort of 2 paragraphs there. And he reminds you of us of what the purpose was and that it's effective and why, but these 2 are really the same paragraph. Okay. So that's kind of, you know, the process of the design analysis. And so again, this is going to be recorded. If we went over it kind of fast, you know, you're just going to play it at your speed and then look at it and make sure you understand it. Okay, questions. You guys have questions about your own paper and your own image? Who has a question? Anybody? Tara? I can't hear you. Are you talking? I can't hear you yet. I see your mouth. No.
You're unmuted. You're unmuted. We just can't hear you. Maybe you're not close enough to the computer. But your face looks close, obviously.
What about now?
Oh, there you go.
You're good. You're good. You're back. You're gone.
You have Bluetooth headphones that are like getting in the way.
You could try typing it in.
That's a good idea.
There's a chat. There's a chat on your right. You can type it in your question and we'll look at that. Hit enter when you're done. We can't see it. Where do we find our other peer reviews? So your peer reviews should be on the side of the original screen. I assign them, so maybe we'll look at that for a minute. Let's just go look at the site a bit. It's covering me up. Oh wow. This is a little slow. It'll get there. There it is. So I think this is what your page looks like. You have to do things over here. If you went into your assignment and you looked at your assignment, it actually should have down here your peer reviews. And actually, if you look at your own assignment, to the side of it, if you click on the assignments and let's say we click on assignments, and let's say we go to this one. Actually, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go to grades. Well, let's see. Okay. Oh, I don't have anything submitted. if I did, over here, under this thing, would be your comments. See that it says add comments? So your peers would add a comment and it would show up here. So let me get out of this for a minute. I'll show you what my page looks like and you can see that people have the comments. So we'll go to yeah. So let's look at we'll look at Tamel. We'll go to Tamel's. Yeah, we'll check his. Okay. So we're looking at Tamel's right now. If I click on this, it'll is all right. I'll do that. Okay. Well, none of his pieces here, but if you look on the side over here, here's Tara. Here's her peer review. It's over on the side. Here's my peer review. If you have a couple of peer reviews, that stuff will be over there, and you can read it if you want to stuff. I'm not sure why it's not coming up. But it's not. Okay. Did you kind of get that a little bit?
Yeah.
So when you go to your own file, when you look at your own file, off to the side, it'll have those comments.
Because I saw my own on his. But I didn't know if it was-
You didn't see anything on yours?
Yeah. But
Well, heck. Maybe nobody made anything on yours. I made some stuff on yours.
yeah. Well, on the review or through like a message.
On the side where it says, I guess, yeah, where it says reviews.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. There's Zachary. He had trouble getting in. Okay. So if you just joined, let me just explain to you that we just finished talking about the visual analysis. Hey, Zachary. We just finished talking about the visual analysis, but this is recorded. So I created a YouTube channel, I guess it's called, and I'll upload this to the channel, and then you can watch it. You're going to speed through some of it because some of it looks just like this, and other parts of it is instruction. You can rewatch it as often as you want. I won't be able to post that until after we're done our class, and it takes a couple of hours to get on. But yeah, it'll be on there. Also, Wednesday's class last week is already posted. It's already up. It's a little awkward because, of course, we're all learning how to do this. I am especially learning how to do this. And I have to figure out how to edit it. When you want to cut out things you really don't want to be there. So I need to learn how to do that. So everything's a learning thing. Any questions, Zachary, about your own stuff? So you need to revise the Trump essay, right?
Yeah. Well, I send it over to you. I forgot to.
Okay. So what I was going to say is after anybody else have any questions after that, we're going to be talking about the Trump thing again, just because some people need a refresher. It's already was talked about last Wednesday, I believe, maybe in more detail, but we're going to do it today, and we'll do it pretty quickly and pretty well. So anybody else have questions about their own papers? Okay, so again, we want to get this visual analysis in some kind of draft by Wednesday, at least, so I can mark it. Some people have already got it in, and I'll be marking theirs today. The final draft will be due next Monday. Okay, that'll be next week. And then next week, if there's any revisions on the Trump piece, you want to get that done. As well, next week, we want to work with the library somehow. And we're going to begin the final argument paper. That'll be the last one. Because I think we have about 5 weeks next week. Make sure you communicate with me if you have questions. You can, many things. You can send me a message on Canvas. We can talk on the phone. I can set up a chat for you guys where we just talk a little bit, an individual chat. I just won't record it. All that stuff. We can do all that stuff. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is a little work with the Trump piece. And I think most of you have to revise. I don't know if somebody doesn't have to revise. Sam probably doesn't have to revise. Nah, Sam doesn't need to do a dang thing. He's just sitting here. Hey, Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I gotta give some revisions to people because for the visual analysis, because I haven't done that yet. I believe that's my fault that some people don't have it.
Oh, well, so you have till Wednesday. I mean, you have enough time?
Yeah, I have time. I didn't see who I was assigned to read through and give like critiques to. So I just found that, and I'll be doing that today.
So what happens, Sam, is when you haven't submitted, you don't have peer reviews. It doesn't happen until you submit something.
Yeah, I turned in the visual analysis late, and that's why
Okay,
it
well,
took so long.
I'll set you up. No problems. I'll set you up.
Okay. Or
Yes? Your mic's off again.
sorry, every time I click away, it doesn't register me being on the Zoom, and I'm holding spacebar so that my dogs don't bark in your guys' ears.
Oh,
Yeah, so am I just doing all 10 or 12 of these, just reading through them?
no. I mean, if you want, you can. I mean, you're welcome to do that, but I'm going to assign you 2.
Oh, okay. Okay, understood.
Yeah. Because, I mean, people do appreciate that. I've seen some really good peer reviews. Again, that's something I'm following. So if you're not doing peer reviews, that's not good because that would decrease the points that you could have in the class. Grades will come out very soon. I mean, if we use Sam for an example, Sam has all high passes. That's going to be an A. We know this. But Sam is an example. Everybody else, it depends on, if you have majority of your work are passes, you'll get a B. I don't like to actually give grades. I used to give grades, and what would happen is once you got a grade, that was your grade on a paper. And so now what I do is I just give pass revise, and you can revise it to fix it. Even if you have a pass on the paper and you think, you know what, if I could just get a high pass on this, I think I would get maybe an A in the class. You're welcome to revise, and you're welcome to do that. We just can't have the things too late because I actually have to look at them. But I think I probably have a lot of time. I don't have to drive to class anymore. That gives me some time. I don't have to get dressed for it. That gives me some extra time. So, but yeah, we want to get those revisions in. Okay. Anybody else have questions that they wanted to pose? All right. So what I'm going to do is cover the Trump piece a little bit. And if you're fine with what we've talked about, you can sign off and that'd be good. If you came in late and you need to see the earlier part about the visual analysis, this will be ready to go sometime this afternoon. It takes a couple of hours to download. My computers are from 2010, and from 2010, no. And I've done everything I can possibly do to upgrade them. So we will see. Which is why you get to see my office, because I can't put a background. My computer won't do it. Even the one I'm using, which is fairly new, I think it's 2016, it's too old. It takes a very fast processor to put background in there. So, if you don't have questions, I'm going to move on to the Trump piece a little bit. Let's see. Oops. So I should be good up to this. Let me share. So here we're looking at the rhetorical analysis directions for the Trump piece. So this is highlighted, and I think I have included it in your files. So I'm just going to go over the things that you want to pay attention to. So you want to start your introduction with a hook. It's not saying that here. These are the kind of the 120 guidelines, but I always try to add extra, things that you might not be thinking about. So start with the hook, something interesting. And then name the article that you're analyzing it, and then in the piece itself, refer to it as the text. This other part, inform your readers of rhetorical situation, the text author, intended target audience, context, is really your précis, and that's also a short summary. So all of this is the précis that you're kind of dumping into it. And then the last sentence is your thesis, and this is where we talk about if the author was successful. In this case, you want to narrow your focus to the 3 claims that you're going to be analyzing. So if we were looking at the dehumanization one and Newkirk's question, rhetorical question in the first page, he wants to know, so does dehumanizing, does it matter? Does it matter when you dehumanize someone? And he's going to answer that question. And when you read the piece itself, then you realize, yes, for him it does matter. And he makes these claims about why it does matter. So your thesis sentence would be your final sentence at the end of that paragraph. And you want to talk about what his purpose was in writing it, what his argument is, and the claims that he presented. And you want to, this could be 2 sentences, for instance, but you want to also say if it was successful in communicating his argument, did it work? So this is an example of what one looks like. Yours is going to be a little different, but we have the author, we have the things that he did, and then we have this effectively convince of something. So yours will have that, roughly that same formula to do it. So now we're beginning to talk about the tools. So this is the strategies. The strategies are, does he offer an anecdote, a little story? Does he use authorities? So we know Newkirk does use authorities. Generalization, yes, if you say that all immigrants are animals, you just generalize. Hyperbole, yeah, Trump uses hyperbole. Newkirk doesn't. So we always want to say what strategies Newkirk used in presenting that evidence, not what strategies Trump used. So we want to look at that in that way. You also have a handout on this, rhetorical strategies, which is very detailed, so you can use that. Body paragraphs, and we don't have it here. We kind of do, but I wanted to sort of tell you that there's a little formula to this, which I wrote on most people's papers, but the body paragraph should start with the topic sentence. Here it says that, a topic sentence. You should have a quote that you can sort of discuss a bit, and then that's your textual evidence. You want to analyze that quote, explain what it means, and how the quote or the claim exemplifies the strategy. What is the strategy they use? So identify the strategy and critique it. Did this work well in furthering the author's purpose or not so much? Then we also wanted to talk about the evidence there, if it's relevant, credible, sufficient. Sufficient is enough. Relevant means, does it relate to the topic? Is it credible? Is it something we can trust? And then we should be talking about the appeals. So here we're talking about the impact on the target audience, but we want to identify the appeals. We want to say, well, this is ethos, pathos, or logos. Ethos, establishing author credibility, which would be Newkirk's credibility. Pathos, rhetorical appeal to our emotion based on our values. For instance, that story about Daniel Medina, that anecdote about Daniel Medina, might make some people, in terms of their values or emotions, feel anger because it's unjust, it's unfair. He's a DACA student just trying to get through school, gets picked up by ICE, and everything that he's worked for could be lost. So that might make the audience feel something. Logos, if it's informational, so if we look at some of the quotes that Newkirk used that were said about immigrants, then we would say, well, okay, that's a fact. And we would talk about that. So, and then we want to know, given these appeals, what's the impact on the target audience? What would they do? Would that make them act on this thing? Would it just make them aware? What would it make them do? Okay. Now, the target audience should have been specified in the introduction in your précis. So we want to know who exactly the target audience might be. For the Newkirk piece, we might be thinking about it's uninformed people. It's change makers, because we know it was published in the Atlantic. It's people that are interested in social justice. It's people like that. It could also be some supporters of Trump who may not have looked at it in that way before. It has to be people that have an open mind. Okay. Conclusion. When we look at the conclusion, we want to zoom out a bit. We also want to present the argument, Newkirk's argument. How important were the rhetorical strategies in proving his argument? How important were his claims? What do we think was effective or ineffective? And then in terms of his argument about dehumanization, what is it saying about our culture? Is it a significant thing? Is it something we should all be talking about? So that's where the zoom out part occurs. Okay. All right. So I'm just wanted to bring up here it is. All right, I'm back to you guys. Okay, any questions on that? Now that was very detailed. So you would definitely want to listen to that part of the video again, especially if you're looking at your own paper. And you can pause it, you can stop it and look at your paper and, you know, rewind it or go backwards and see it a couple of times. If it's not making sense to you, then ask me questions. Okay, now we're going to look at the actual essay itself. Maybe talk about where the claims might be, kind of look at his Newkirk's organization in the piece, what evidence he presents, do that. Okay, so this is the Dehumanization Essay. I guess the picture is gone, but it's not necessary. So if you notice, well, actually, it would be nice to be at the top. I don't know, it's gone. If you have the whole essay, which I'm sure you do, then at the very top it has the title, which is in quotes. It has the Atlantic, which should be placed in italics in your own paper. It has Van Newkirk, the author, there. Here's where the essay actually starts, and notice it's a hook. So he starts with a quote. You wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These aren't people, they're animals. So that makes it really kind of interesting. Now you're thinking, well, wow, that's pretty dramatic. I wonder what this is about. So that gets you interested. And then this part right in here is just the background. So what is that about? Here's all the background. That's all it is. He's setting up his argument. And then here at the bottom is his rhetorical question. The real question is, why does it matter? He's going to answer this question. That's what a rhetorical question does. And in that way, he's going to create his argument about dehumanization matters because he's going to do that. Okay. If we look at the next part, so I think when we started this process, I was explaining to you guys that these first 3 paragraphs have the claim in them, just so you could see where the first one started. And the claim itself is this binary thing where we have 2 sides to something. Somebody's good, somebody's bad. And so what they say is there's a certain moral clarity, meaning if we're the good guys and they're the bad guys, then we should do something to those bad guys, especially if that's the way it's presented. Now, what that means is that what somebody has done is there's the real person and there's the persona that they have created. And they keep using the persona until that's ingrained in people's minds, so that when they see someone, they don't see the real person. They see this bad guy. And they feel okay about it because, oh, we're the good ones, they're the bad ones. So moral clarity is this binary thinking. What's good, what's bad, what's black, what's white, what's wrong, what's right, like that. So, but the problem is this sort of moral assessment is aggressive with the speaker. You're either choosing to defend the monsters, the so-called monsters, and you have to, in this, as they say, in this brutally simplistic worldview, I don't know whether brutal is the stronger word or simplistic. It's stupid. It's simplistic. When there's only 2 sides to something, that's never the case. So, but it sets it up like that. And so you have the argument claim in this piece. You have the evidence, which is this stuff here, these quotes. You have an explanation of what that means. So you can go through that idea that we spoke about earlier. You can go back to the handout and look at how does the paragraph, should it be structured, and that's your first claim. In this piece here, right away, the second claim is introduced. Something about policy and human rights implications to what the president says and does. That's a claim. There are policy and human rights implications to what the president says and does. Why does dehumanization matter? Because of that. This stuff here is the evidence. It's the background. And then in particular, they have an explanation of it's ambiguous and why this creates a problem. This unclarity is the key mechanism to the federal government's targeting. So they move from the claim, which is a more general thing, policy and human rights implications, to what's going on, why immigrants are being targeted. And then they have this example of this Daniel Ramirez, who should never have been arrested. But because of the wording, ICE decided that it could do it. And felt like if the president said it, well, then it was policy. It's not policy, it's an opinion, it's not the law. So it's important to be putting those things together. This Marshall Project piece right here is just a group that did some statistics and identified that it wasn't just Daniel Ramirez, it's all kinds of people. So that just adds to that particular claim. This one is the one that's the more difficult one, I think, for a lot of people. And it's interesting the way they start. They say it would be a mistake to think that Trump is being sloppy speaking. He's not. Because really, it's just the way American racial immigrant relations have always gone. It's the history of how we are. It's the history of how it's been in the world. And so what he says is this thing here, which I'm going to explain to you. A combination of extreme words and cutting out the difference between the real and the perceived, that persona and the real person is the crux, is the way racism has always worked. So that's your claim. And now it makes sense, doesn't it? If you think about, if I take these words and just make them regular words, extreme depiction of a real person and cutting out the difference between the person I'm looking at and this persona that I've been talking about, this stereotype, apply the stereotype to the real person doesn't exist anymore. And all of a sudden, hey, you can punish this person. Okay. And so what happened was, the way this works is, this is an example. So a super predator was an incident in the 1990s, sort of a designation against, well, wielded primarily against black teenagers, but it was against all the teen violence. The media got a hold of something and decided to sell this as our big problem. The politicians jumped on board, went crazy. This guy had this theory, and they passed these laws that prosecuted juveniles as adults, lots of them, based on their being apex predator, or the apex predator. Not really true. In some cases, probably true, but the majority of them not true. And then what this did was theoretically othered them. Again, we're looking at, there's us, the good people, and those are other people, those bad people. That's kind of what it did. And it was so seductive, or so persuasive, that even somebody like Hillary Clinton, who's supposed to have a brain, who knows, jumped on board. Oh, well, then we better do something. And I think a lot of people were fooled by this guy because he was from Princeton and he sounded really smart. But the outcome was pretty bad. And there's information on that. Okay. And then this last claim, and this is interesting. This is not really the claim, but this is it starts this way. Oops. So he's answering his own question. Why is dehumanization matter? Because the true peril of the comments, the true danger of the comments, is that the state will further be empowered to suspend human rights. So they say. So he says, dehumanization is not just a buzzword. Here's